Hello, I'm Laura Towers, a research fellow and member of the Morgan Centre at the University of Manchester. In this video, we will be thinking about the concept of family practices, focusing specifically on the work of David Morgan to do so. The concept of family practices is largely associated with sociologist David Morgan, who first used the term in the concluding chapter of his book titled Family Connections, published in 1996. Morgan later revisited this work in his 2011 text titled Rethinking Family Practices, where he engages further with the concept and demonstrates the continued relevance of applying a family practices approach. Across his works, David Morgan acknowledges that the idea of family retains value and significance as people talk about their family as a tangible part of their everyday life. Discursive practices around the family also remain influential, with politicians, policymakers, religious leaders, and the media often referring to the family as a legitimate and recognizable part of social life. However, Morgan argues that use of the family as a term falsely implies a series of rigid structures that overlook the fluidity and diversity of contemporary family life. As this quote explains, to write of the family was to give it a thing-like quality. It failed to do justice to the range of positions or roles associated with the family and the different ways in which these might be interpreted or enacted. And so, here Morgan outlines his intention in developing the family practices approach. Essentially, Morgan sought to address the notion of sameness and rigidity implied by the term family, by acknowledging that families are greatly variable and constantly changing. Instead, he aimed to develop a term that reflects how diverse families are in contemporary society, and in particular, challenge the heteronormative assumption that the family consists of a man and woman with their children. In a journal article titled Locating Family Practices, also published in 2011, David Morgan summarizes what he sees as the key features of a practices approach. The central premise behind the practices approach is the idea that family is something that people do rather than have or be. In this sense, family becomes a verb rather than a noun. It carries with it a sense of action and an assertion that family life is a set of activities rather than a static structure with fixed positions such as that of mother or father. Practices include the ordinary, often taken for granted aspects of family life, such as meal times and daily conversation. Though often associated with everydayness, the essence of practices is that they are part of routine family life and occur with some regularity, be it daily, weekly, monthly, or annually. The concept recognizes that family forms are diverse and fluid, accommodating different structures like stepfamilies, same-sex couples, and chosen families, and acknowledges that family boundaries are permeable. Finally, family practices are influenced by, and in turn influence, broader social, economic, and cultural contexts. This idea links with C. Wright Mills's work on sociological imagination. Taking this approach, family is defined not by blood, but by the things that people do together and the ways they interact, with practices being the little fragments of daily life which are part of the normal, taken for granted existence of the practitioners. Morgan notes that family practices have an emotional dimension to them, as well as personal or moral significance, creating meaning for the practitioners and their actions. However, this does not mean that they are always considered in positive terms. Many practices are considered to be oppressive or constraining. For example, acts of coercive control, as well as physical or emotional abuse, can be considered family practices. As such, it is important to remain critical and remember that family practices should never be assumed to be positively enacted or received. Here are the references for the work we have looked at in this presentation. Please feel free to explore them in your own time for further information. Thank you for listening.